When it comes to thinking about our target group, one of the important things to remember is that different learners have very different characteristics. They have very different learning preferences, learning modes, learning styles, very different environments, very different backgrounds, which means that the way we have to design and deliver our training needs to be very different as well. So when it comes to identifying your target learner group, here are a list of different things you need to consider when it comes to planning out your training, how it's going to be written and how it's going to be delivered. The type of and amount and level of work experience they've had in the past, what kind of previous work experience they've got, what kind of learning and education experience they've got. Have they got formal or informal, or a combination of both? What is their current skill level in the topic that you're teaching? What socioeconomic background have they come from? Are there sort of stereotypes that you need to consider taking out of your learning programs, depending on type of group that you actually have? The cultural background that they've come from is also very important. Now, here's a funny but not funny story, is that we were actually once delivering training for a group of Saudi Arabian learners where we had, and this sounds awful to laugh about it, but this just goes to show how important it is when it comes to training. We had a bunch of clip art images within our training program. In this particular set of slides was about leadership, and there was one slide of a clip art of stick men where there was a group of men, stick men, holding up a platform, and on top of the platform that they were carrying was another stick man pointing the direction with which he needed to be carried. So this was to depict leadership. But what was shocking when we audited the training materials that somebody else had developed, I'd like to point out, was that all of the stick men that were underneath the platform were black coloured stick men, and the stick man that was on top of the platform that they were carrying was a white stick man. Now, clearly, where we were teaching a group of students who would have associated themselves more with the black coloured stick men, this would have been an absolutely disastrous training design outcome for that particular environment when we're thinking about the cultural background and needs. So we obviously noticed that and very quickly made changes to those content. Now, I'd like to use this extreme example to show you how important it is to think about the cultural background and needs. Now, in that very same set of suite of training materials, we also had from the training developers before us, before we got our hands on it, there were a lot of images of women. There was also images of women that perhaps weren't as dressed as would be socially acceptable in their particular culture. So this stuff is really important. How old are they? What gender are they? What are their motivations for actually learning in the first place? One of the things we can talk about later on is adult learning styles. When we're talking to adults about their learning program, they have to understand why it's relevant to them and why it's important to them. So understanding why they're in the learning program itself is also very important here, because we can design the language to constantly refer to their motivations for being there. What are their language literacy and numeracy skill levels? What are their learning preferences? Are there any specific quality standards that we also need to consider? So here are just some of the things we need to think about when we're thinking about our target learner group so that we can design and deliver our training effectively.